From a footballing perspective, last season it was more like a roller coaster for Chelsea fans all over the world. At least from a footballing perspective, again, I've repeated myself. We will look at it today, look at what went wrong, what went right, whether there were lots of more positives and negatives, or the other way around. Whatever it is, we'll talk about it today. So sit back, relax, and let's get into it. Yes, people, welcome back to Chelsea Perspective. And already I have in the house, I have my brother DJ Sam and my brother Max at Burton. So it's going to be, a fun show today. So let me quickly see what we have in the chat to see what the people are saying already, because we always like to keep it interactive here on Chelsea Perspective. We have a True Blue. He says Romana files lawsuit at Europe General Court in Brussels against the EU. We'll see how that goes. I hope he comes out victorious, but it's going to be pretty difficult with top politics, and you know how the world is run. Triple says a club shop back online. Yep, that happened yesterday, actually, immediately after the announcement. 3 officially removed from the sponsorship list, sponsors list. Again, in the case of 3, I expected that to happen because the truth is, whether they like it or not, from a business perspective, that will most definitely tarnish their image. Organizations cannot trust them anymore. What they did wasn't right. It was like, they're blaming the club for what's going on in Ukraine. But again, that's by the way, we're not here to talk about that. Liam is just saying hello to Tribune. No coincidence that he waited until the sale went through. That's a smart man. Yep, the way the club, that way the club wouldn't get caught up in all of it. I think that makes a perfect sense. How are you doing, Liam, yourself? I hope you're doing well. Nick, welcome to the panel. I hope you're doing well. Oh, Nick.
Yes.
How about you? Okay. Yeah, brilliant. I can hear you, crystal clear. So yeah, again, I'm going to come back to the panel. So let's get into business immediately, and I'll start with you, DJ. So last season for you, how would you describe it from a footballing perspective? I know we went through a lot, given the sanctions, the restrictions on the club, but beyond that, quite a lot happened to us.
Yeah, a lot happened. I'll start off with the beginning of the whole season with our signings that we made. If you don't mind me saying it, Lukaku, I was expecting a lot from him at the start of the season, because obviously when we were discussing transfers at the start of the new season, everyone was asking, who would be your first. My preference choice was always Haaland, but obviously I said we can't get Haaland, and I'd go for Lukaku. I went on a lot of streams and I did say that, and I'm not going to sit and deny that all, because I did say Lukaku is my second signing. He started off well for him. He started scoring goals for us, and then all of a sudden we started seeing him go back to what he used to be when he first came to Chelsea. He wasn't really hitting the goals. He wasn't. All of a sudden he was feeling unhappy. Then he did that interview, obviously. And obviously we started well. I mean, obviously, to be fair, we were up there for quite some time of the season. We did start well. And then slowly we started going into that little shell of ours and started to unnecessarily we were drawing games. It started off with first, and then we started losing games after that. And then, you started to see then us slowly falling down the perch, if you like. But we always stay within the top half of the table, always within that top 4, top 5, if you like. We were always amongst that. We were never going to lose that spot. And but for me, I did obviously, in terms of expectation, obviously I expected to do more. Great. Obviously, we got into the Champions League. We won that. Then obviously we won the cup, the Super Cup. Then went on to win the trophy that was missing from the cabinet from the Chelsea history, which was the World Club tournament, which we ended up getting under the Roman era before Roman went off.
I don't know. Is it just me or is DJ having an audio issue?
I think he's come out. His wife.
Yeah. I think it's an audio issue. Max, I'll come to you, Max. Your thoughts on this last season? How would you, how was it for you?
First of all, thanks for having me on, and hi, I'm Nick as well, and everyone in the chat. Hope everyone's okay.
More thanks to you.
Yeah, so like what DJ was saying, we had a good start to the season, and you know what, I've always said that this league was going to be out of 3 teams this season, us, Manchester City and Liverpool, and I said to everybody I spoke to, it's going to come down to who has the least injuries. And okay, a lot of people are saying that we are miles away from Liverpool and Man City. Okay, consistency probably, but I do think that had they gone through the same crisis as we did, then maybe you'll be looking at us closer to them, or even challenging. Because if you look at Man City towards the end of the season, when they lost a few of their players, they started to struggle, didn't they? Because they had Walker out and they had DS out, and that was only for about 3 or 4 games, and they were struggling. Liverpool didn't have any big major injuries this season. So the way the season started off quite well, because if you notice, we were scoring quite a few goals. We scored 3 against Crystal Palace, was it? 3 against Aston Villa. We played well against Liverpool when we were down to 10 men. Had it been 11 against 11, I feel that we would have beaten Liverpool in that game. And we were at the top of the table up until the injury. What done it for us was that injury to Chilwell. I think that was the big one when we lost him against the Juventus, and then obviously we all know what happened over the Christmas, where we were the only team who were punished. I say punished because we weren't allowed to call the game off against Wolves and Everton when we had no strikers at all. Arsenal were allowed to have a game called off when they had only 1 COVID case, but they had a couple of people over at the African Nations Cup and some injuries. So how that's fair, and the fact that we had genuine COVID cases, and we didn't have a game called off. Liverpool manipulated it. Remember, I'm not sure you guys remember where.
Yeah, I remember
a lot of all those false negative. Yeah,
they're saying that club lied.
Yeah, they did. And all of a sudden, they happened to have about 8 false positives, which that should have been investigated, because they sort of exploited the situation. So what happened then is. I know we've been very critical about our team, me included at some points. But if you look at everything, after a lot of these players were playing with injuries, because they had to play when especially over the Christmas period, when we had a lot of people either out injured or out with COVID. And plus we played 63 games this season, and that's only 66 is the maximum you can play if you're involved in the World Club Cup and the Super Cup. So we only missed out on three games this season, and all the rest, 63 games, with a lot of games to play over the season. One stat I didn't realise is that we actually, we're talking about our attack and how poor we are at finishing, but we scored 122 goals in all competitions this season. Apparently, that's the 3rd highest we've scored ever. And I find that quite incredible, actually, because looking at it, we'd have thought, we thought that our attackers were under fire and whatever. But when you look at that, 122 goals. I know we had quite a few games, but yeah. But I think it's probably we scored the 7 against Norwich helped, the 6 against Southampton, and as I said at the beginning of the season, we were scoring quite a lot of 3s and 4s, but the goals kind of dried up towards the middle of the season. But what annoys me overall when I'm assessing the season is that the fact that we didn't strengthen the squad properly, and that's what that came to hurt. That hurt us in the end, because just getting in Saul, that Saul Tchouameni thing, that would haunt me for ages. They didn't think Tchouameni was ready yet. We brought in Saul, who played 4 games, 4 starts all season, and Malang Sarr. So our backups were not good enough. it was obvious that we needed a backup for the wing back roles, because that's integral to the way that we play. What Liverpool did, they brought in Tsimikas, and without Tsimikas, they would have struggled when Robertson missed games. But because they've got him in now, he is a good quality backup for him. We've got no quality backups or we didn't have any quality backups for our fullbacks, and so hopefully, this season we'll address that. But two signings after winning the Champions League, I think in the end that's what's done us. If we had invested a bit more,
here's what I want to ask you, Matt. How about the argument that we didn't sign players because we were not able to move players out because we have a lot of what people like to refer as deadwoods. The argument that we were not able to sign players because we have a bloated squad.
But you know what? It comes to a point where we've got to say, look, Marina, don't try and overprice these players because we ain't going to get top dollar. And that's the thing. I prefer to get them off the wage bill. Not looking to maximise profit, because we when you think we brought in 100 million from some of our younger players, we brought in over 100 million, so we could have afforded to. Apparently, Marcus Alonso has wanted to go for about 3 seasons now, but because we keep pricing him out of a move, so if someone was asking for 10 million for Alonso, we should have taken it rather than looking at top dollar. And it's even some of the loan people who want to go out on loan, the loan fees were quite astronomically high as well. So sometimes I think we should just say, you know what, it's better to clear the decks, get rid of the guys who quite clearly are just taking up a squad place and not really going to be playing a lot because Thomas Tuchel doesn't trust them. I prefer to get them off the book so that we can bring in good players. It's not always about trying to maximise profit. Just clear them off the wage bill as far as I'm concerned.
So overall, you think some factors such as the COVID situation and injuries were the reasons why we didn't do as well as we should?
Yeah, I think so. But again, it's that conundrum of getting our strikers to fire as well, because we've had that for about 3 seasons now, where our strikers haven't really been hitting the heights that they need to. If I had to rate the season, obviously we've got the World Club Cup, like DJ said, which was something that I really wanted to win to complete our trophy cabinet. Super Cup, it would have been great if we could have just got one of them domestic trophies off Liverpool on penalties or whatever. So had we finished with the FA Cup or one of the domestic cups, and I'd have said it was a fairly successful season, but the fact that we didn't get one of those domestic trophies, then it was just an okay-ish season for me. But third is, we're the third best team in the country at the moment, so that's where we deserve to be. So for me, third was a fair assessment.
Overall, for you, more positive or more negative?
I'll say probably more negative. I was expecting us to challenge this season. But the big disappointment was the Lukaku one, because I thought Lukaku was probably going to be the guy who was going to allow us to challenge, but it just didn't work out with him. Because what we lacked last season was just the goals, and I thought he was going to get the goals, and he didn't. So for me, because we finished 19 points behind Man City, it's got to go down as a negative, because the bread and butter league's the bread and butter at the end of the day. And had we even closed the gap to single figures, then we could say, okay, we've got something to work on. But the fact that the gap hasn't been closed that much, then for me, it's got to go down as a disappointing season for me.
Yeah, it's a crazy one. The sanctions and the restrictions on the club.
Yeah, that's another thing I didn't mention. Exactly, that's another thing, because they're only human. And what I found, because before the sanctions, we were winning games. We went when the sanctions came out in March, we won every single game in March, didn't we? But I think what happened is the international break. And don't underestimate that, because they've gone away out of that environment, the bubble that we were in, and they've heard from people must have been talking from the England squad and other squads and saying, what, you're really in trouble. And it may have hit home to the players the enormity of what was happening. So when they came back from that international break, if you notice, that's when our form started to dip. And as I said, that's because they were out of that bubble and there was more noise surrounding this sanctions. So I think it did take its toll on the players as well. And also, if you look at after the Brentford game, that's when fans weren't allowed to go into the ground. Sorry, and so obviously what you had there is a lack of atmosphere because we had a 3/4 full stadium, and it wasn't a noisy stadium as well. So that does affect the players as well when you haven't got that atmosphere. There's nothing like a full Stanford Bridge, everyone shouting and encouraging the team. So that too affected us, I think.
Yeah, I think I'm going to hold on first. DJ, can you finish your points? You were telling us how summing up the season for us the way you see it.
Yeah, literally, what Max just literally said it. I was going to say literally the same thing, and the whole situation after the section, what happened to us. I think, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think we did towards the end. I think we were finding some form. I think before the international break, we were winning games, and then after the last international break, we started going down a slide again. And then
but here's the thing: if we're using the international break as an excuse, it's never going to stop.
It's not. No, it's not an excuse. What I'm saying is, what I'm saying, Coachila, is before the international break, we were winning games despite the sanctions. We were doing pretty well. That's what I was trying to say. We were doing really, really well, and then all of a sudden, afterwards, the international break came, and then the players went off, came back. I'm not using it as an excuse because, to be honest, it's not an excuse. But the players started going a little bit. I don't know if the sanctions started to get to the players' heads. They started to think what's going on with the football club. I don't know if that was going through their heads. So no one knows. No one knows what was going through players' heads and minds when this whole situation happened. Only they know it, and their teammates around them, and the manager knows it. None of us know what the situation was with them. So in terms of that, that's the only reason why I'm not saying it's an excuse. Generally, I just thought we should have done better than what we did. But again, like Max pointed out, I thought we should have done more signings as well. I mean, if you think about the situation where we could have got Tchouaméni, and instead we decided to go and get Saul Niguez, who apparently our scouts scouted for 2 years. They were scouting Saul Niguez for. I mean, that in itself just makes me laugh and tells you what our scouting team is all about and how useless they are. So for me, in that kind of way, we should have got Tchouaméni. I think he'd have loaned him back if possible. If he was worried about game time, loaned him back out to Monaco, and then brought him back in the summer. But it never happened. We stayed with Saul Niguez, and the guy hardly kicked the ball. He hardly even played any games. That just tells you how messed up our transfer market, our transfer business was, and in terms of what we were doing in the season. So, yeah, a lot of things have played a part in it, But I still think we should have done better. But the bottom line is we still ended up finishing third. And overall, if you're going to look at it in that way, with everything that's gone. With everything that's gone against us with the sanctions and everything, to still finish where we did finish, but way ahead, way behind Liverpool and Manchester City, is what we are. We know we got a lot of catching up to do next season. It's 100%.
Yeah, quite a lot of catch up to do. I'll come back to the panel, but I want to catch up with what we have in the chat already. Rodrigo Rogers say, how do I join the panel? You'd have to DM me via Twitter, and I'll verify your identity, because some nonsense has been going on in the community. Some people who have too much time in their hands are, trying to sabotage content creators. It has happened to two of my close friends, Titux and then Ankit, and their channels got suspended. And they, you can say they were both lucky to have been able to get them back. So that's, by the way, the Bluetooth game says 9 games in December with no cancellation notice. I'm not sure what you mean there. Anybody on the panel can help me with this? What he's talking about?
He means that we played a lot more games than others who had their games cancelled due to COVID. So that's what he means. He means we played more. We played more than anyone else. Us and Man City are the only teams that haven't had a game called off due to COVID this season. So that's what he.
But Man City didn't have any. Man City didn't have any cases, though, did they? And we did. So they didn't have a lot of cases. So we were the only ones who the rules. We were the only team where the rules didn't apply, because we had 4 or 5 players, and they still forced us to play.
Some people only had cases.
And at the time, I heard that all over Europe, we played the most games.
Yes, in that time we did, yeah.
Wow. Oh, let me just catch up, and then I'll come to Nicky, because he's the next person to speak. Says Chelsea are now one of only 4 clubs in Europe with zero depth. Thank you, Roman. Again, thank you, Roman. Again, why this is so topic, I think I just have to read it because it's an interactive show. One thing Bolly won't do this, bring back a Roman. Again, we need to get things right. I think it will take 2 years. We'll see what happens. But again, I have to manage my expectation for the club next year. If we make a lot of changes, chances are it will be a poor season for us, given Chelsea's standard. True Blue says deals. We all know we need a bigger stadium. It's not happening tomorrow. That's sure. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. I have to disagree with you at the CFC Matty. He went. He would not. It would be another one we let go. He's talking about Pulisic again. That's a conversation between them two. Is there anything to address here? I don't think so. Talking about what we need, Todd Boehly needs to bring in again. We're not talking about transfer today. Nick, tell me give us an overview of the season from your perspective. What you saw and what you think went wrong and what you think went right.
Yeah, before the season, just before it started, I predicted we were going to win the league. I had Chelsea, City, Liverpool, and Man United. I thought the top usual four, but it didn't go like that. I'm afraid, because of quite a few things. First of all, like Max and VJ said already, they made us play with COVID going on. They made us play games when they postponed the Liverpool ones, City ones, because they're against us, as we know. That didn't help. Then when we lost Chilwell, and soon afterwards Reece James as well, that killed it. That killed it for me. Then I knew we weren't going to win the league. I was hoping for second then. But we finished up. It's not, end of the world. It ain't that bad, really, considering Tuchel played with other managers' players. So Tuchel, he won us 2 trophies, the World Cup, the Super Cup, and that's better than Liverpool done anyway. Liverpool's supposed to win all 4 trophies. So we are, and they beat us by penalties. 2 finals, which really we should have won both, not one. A bit of unluck, a bit of bias. Liverpool with VAR again in the League Cup, and everything against us as usual. And the FA Cup we lost it ourselves, I'm afraid. And so considering everything, it wasn't a bad season for Tuchel. He done what he could do. He done miracles really with the players he had. And we thought, we need a striker. Before we brought Lukaku, like Max said, we were up for it. We thought, great, now we can really go for the league. But no. But, it didn't work out like that because he started well, as we know. But after that interview, everything went wrong. The fans went against him, calling him names all over the place. Where he got so much abuse, it's unbelievable. And the guy saw everything. So, no wonder he couldn't play after that. And he did, that's what happened. And now we're waiting for him to go. And it looks like he might go. Let's hope he does now, because it's the best thing for him and for us. And just bring Lewandowski in, like I keep saying. I won't stop saying it till we have Lewandowski in the side.
And I seriously was going to ask you ID if you finish and not talk about Lewandowski.
No chance. Because I was just watching Lewandowski now on Sky Sports, the Polish manager, talking about him. He wants to leave Bayern Munich, and I know Tuchel is a big admirer of his. So you never know.
We'll see what happens. So to you, Nick, more positives or more negatives?
I would say average. 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 I can't say complete negative or positive. So it's got to be in the middle. For me, it's average. Average. Yeah. Oh, that's what I would say for that. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to catch up with the chat and I'll come to Andrew here. It says, True Blue says, Arsenal had a game versus Sports cancelled. And in their case, they had just a single case of COVID-19. Andrew, starting with that, the rule changed before the Arsenal game because that surprised everybody. The fan base were fuming. Everybody, even Tuchel wasn't happy. We had about 4, 5, 6 cases, and we tried to get them to cancel that game.
Yeah.
They did not. But Arsenal games versus Sports got cancelled. I think it was because of a single case. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's one of the games I recall was cancelled because of a single case.
Yeah, and I don't think it was. If I can, someone can remind me of it. I don't know if it was ours was different because it actually affected actual squad members that play. I don't think theirs actually did. I think it was like a couple of cases around their training ground, like in the under 23s or something like that. Nothing that was directly affected them. I listen. You can't blame Arsenal. They exploited the rule. They exploited the rules at the time, and thankfully they changed. But if you remember our bench against Wolves, I don't think we could fill out the actual 9 subs, if I recall.
We had 2 keepers on there, didn't we?
Yeah, we had 2 keepers. We couldn't we had a couple of from the academy. I think Harvey Bell and Soup Sup Bell, whatever he's called, Cup of Soup, whatever he's called. He was on there, but we couldn't fill. And that's when Tuchel came out of the game and sort of gave the squad a little bit of an out by complaining about it, sort of thing. And it was like one of those things that steamrolled. But I think our problems go back from when we won the European Cup. So I think it papered over massive cracks, and I think it put people in a falsehood. People in the board thinking that we only need a couple of players and we can match Man City and Liverpool, and we can do this. Look what Thomas Tuchel has done.
Did we even get a couple of players? We did not.
Well, 2 were Lukaku and
Son. 1.5, really, wasn't it?
But what I'm saying is, it gave them like, oh my god! Imagine we just need a striker and we're the same as Liverpool and Man City, and it was like no. And I think most of the fan base fell for it because we were still in the euphoria of winning the European Cup because no one expected it, and I think it was downhill from there. And then we just saw the injuries, what was our top level players, and then the replacements. The levels are massive on there. Do you know what I mean? And just the way this squad was built, it was. It ended up being a season that I think has been repeated for the last 5 years in terms of what ifs and near misses, and still an issue with our forward line 5 years on from selling Diego Costa, and also let's say 3 years on from Hazard leaving and covering everyone. It was just one of those where it was so frustrating. It was so long as well. It was so long it felt this season was like one of the longest ever, and I just couldn't wait for it to end. I think I slightly disagree with Burton with the after the national break. I think our side went to the beach after they lost the second leg against Real Madrid. I think they mentally went then. I think they went, we're done. Because they were 3-0 up in the Bernabeu. And they thought they were through.
Whose fault? I'd blame Tuchel for that. Because I'd argue he wasn't pragmatic enough. Because, believe me, no matter how you see it, a Jose Mourinho team wouldn't lose that game. Wouldn't even concede a second goal.
No, can I just address Andrew a minute?
Yeah, go
ahead. The reason I said it was after the international break, because we know straight after that we lost 4-1 at home to Brentford.
Oh, yeah.
But,
Andrew,
were you talking about the Real Madrid away game?
And then we got beaten 3-1 against. We had back-to-back defeats.
Okay, you were not talking about the away game, right?
So, I'm talking
not the one in Bernabeu.
I'm talking about.
Yeah, he's talking about that one.
You're saying like they sort of.
Yeah. If it's that one, in my opinion, I would blame Tuchel anytime, any day for not being pragmatic enough.
I'm talking about. I think they sort of. I think they were up for better, but I think they sort of felt like they were on the beach from after the losing the second leg. Like mentally, they were done. I think they were just done. There were little bits and pieces in between them where I thought they were done. Because I think, like I say, they lost to They lost to Brentford, lost to Real Madrid, then we beat Southampton 6-0, and everyone was. I just think, though, I think Tuchel, while he deserves high praise, does deserve a bit of criticism as well with some of his in-game management, some of his substitutions. But then again, I just don't think he likes this squad. I mean, if he's looking back on the bench and you're seeing the likes of Saul, Ross Barkley, to try and change things, it's like, but that's why I give it a 6.5 out of 10. If I'm being honest with you,
the overall season performance.
Yeah, it might be different if we won the FA Cup, because at least we could go, well, we won half the competitions we went in for this season, sort of just rub that in people's faces. But that's why I'm so hopeful that this is a change in the way that the club is run in terms of parity and decision making with the coach and the board or whoever to actually fine tune the squad. But I would like next season. I would like us to solely focus. No, two things to focus on would also be the Champions League and the Premier League. I'm not fussed with the domestic cups unless we get to a final. I'm not really fussed about that. I'd rather him rotate heavily in the cups and focus on the Champions League and the Premier League next season. But for this season, it had some great moments. I mean, the emergence of Reece James was very exciting to see for all Chelsea fans. I
wouldn't say emergence. I would say improvement.
Improvement, but I mean emergence as in, I think we knew but the whole world. Do you know what I mean? The whole world now starting to take notice of him. Him getting. I hope it doesn't happen because he signed a new contract. But like the Real Madrid players, all going over to him, embracing him, stuff like that. But I think. And this was for him missing a couple of months as well. So, and Mount, whatever you think of him, I think he's improved in his numbers and stuff like that. Now he's got to marry the performances and the numbers together. But I think we should be excited though. New ownership, new players coming in. Hopefully, Alonso, please go.
Alonso, mate.
Coach, you could do Alonso.
Yeah, I remember that.
You can just do a whole stream on Alonso going. You know that when he finally goes.
So the bad news is Real Madrid, Barcelona are broken. They
Max, sorry, Max. You were gonna say something, Max. You were gonna say something. Max, you wanted to say something. Yeah, maybe if you forgot, let me just catch up with the chat. Deals says Chilwell, Reece James, cover Kante injury made a big effect on the past season, and the Lukaku issue as well. Then the sanctions came. Not a lot of teams could have survived it if they had the same issue. I am proud of us. Again, you could say that I am proud. Again, most teams would have been in serious trouble. But there's always something to learn. We learned quite a lot regarding from the injury of Reece James and what's his name? Ben Chilwell. Both players. We have what we call backups, and that shouldn't be the case. We should have competition in every department. We should have all starters, so that when player A isn't available, player B comes in and does a good enough job, or even a better job. But that wasn't the case. Probably the scout or the club didn't know that Alonso, no matter how well he does going forward, that his overall gameplay, he will not be able to measure the standards of Ben Chilwell. And on the right-hand side, we had nobody else who's able to execute the right wing back role as well as Reece James does. But again, I hope they learned, that's why it's important to have competition in every department and not just buy one player who's a starter and then go to the market and buy one that we Chelsea fans are used to calling backups. But then again, when the starter gets injured, then we will learn a big deal of a lesson. Tuchel has shown that he can handle the trenches. Again, he had quite a lot of times. I love him and I trust him, but I think he does sometimes that I'll go, wow, what's going on here? He's a human being after all. He's not perfect. Deals says that Lukaku was not a good move. Let me just phrase it that way. It was a mistake. And how long do you think Marina stays? Probably you could be certain until the transition period there's a chance she stays beyond that. But I think Roman would always want her because he trusts her so much that immediately after her graduation, she started working for Roman. So I don't think that relationship breaks now. She probably will go work for him elsewhere. But that's, by the way, says that we bought Lukaku just because Haaland deal collapsed again. I had my even though I liked Lukaku, but after looking into it, my preferred choice was Dusan Vlahovic. Why the club didn't look at him, I just don't know. Dusan Vlahovic was just 3 goals behind Lukaku that same season that he was still there, even though he played for a club that created less chances, and it didn't look like we even looked at him, and he would have been cheaper. And you've paid like around 70 million plus for him, but again, that's another story for another day. People only remember winners, not how they won. I would take FA Cup over 2 cosmetics cups. I don't know what you're referring to, 2 cosmetic cups. I don't care. Lukaku was overhyped. Tuchel knew he didn't suit his style because Tuchel knows him, knows what he wants. But then again, I would argue that there's no chance Chelsea would complete the signing of Lukaku without Tuchel agreeing, okay, I can work with them. Even though, yeah, there's an argument that Roman wanted him. Even the scout must have gotten the chance to look at him and say, okay, we can work with him. The Roman, I don't think, would go ahead and say, okay, sign the check and give them. If the scout comes out and say, look, we've watched Tuchel's team, at least let me just be safe here not to go as far back as Mainz, at least from Borussia Dortmund to PSG. He doesn't use out-and-out strikers very often. At PSG, he had Mauro Icardi. He also had, what's his name, Cavani. I think Cavani was under him too, but he didn't use them as much as he should be using them. So why did not occur to our scout? I don't know. And why it did not occur to them also that we created quite a lot of chances despite the previous season. All the issue we had was just to put away chances. The signing a defined striker will likely change the way we play, or we must change the way we play to accommodate the striker. But then again, that's another discussion for another day. Arsenal had injuries, but used a single COVID case to get the game cancelled. A slight bend in the rules. I think Andrew explained it. I think they exploited the loophole in the whole rules, and again, it worked out for them. Again, let me try and catch up as quickly as possible. I don't have a studio engineer. Hudson-Odoi needs a loan. Again, that's a discussion for another day. We was never going to win the league with Lukaku. That sounds like Deals is a fellow American. The we was there is very something that's very common in America. What everyone got gassed up because Lukaku won the league in Italy. The Italian league is different to the English league. Again, if he was under Mourinho, believe me, he'd score a lot of goals. Or under Antonio Conte, he'd score quite a lot of goals too. We bought Lukaku because Marina panicked. Again, I wouldn't blame Marina. I don't think it was her fault that we bought Lukaku. Explosive games, what if I said no? Kante was the reason we lost that game at the Bernabeu, not Tuchel. Again, that's your argument. But let me highlight it. Maybe we'll have time enough to talk about it. It is fortunate that the sale took place mid-season, as this could not have been done now without missing the start of season and receiving a possible point deduction. Again, that was a risk I think we averted. So I'm going to come back to the panel. I'll try and catch up with the comments later. Nick, I'm starting with you. Which of the games would you say for you was the worst game of the season?
Oh, well, we had quite a few bad games. I'll never forget the Brentford game because I was there. In that game, we had a full capacity. But, like I said, after the game, I didn't blame the players. I blamed the crowd. The crowd were dead, absolutely dead at that game. I've never seen Stanford Bridge so quiet. Brentford outplayed us because our players were like, all of them, they were statues. No one had a clue. Because of the protests going on that day and everything, maybe it got to them. But the crowd certainly got to them. The crowd was a big part. So I can't say that was because of performance. But the Real Madrid first leg, that's Yeah, that was bad. Bad, but we should have done much better. We made too many mistakes. That was that cost us, the Champions League. I think because of that.
Which one did you pick, Nick?
So I'm trying to think of the other games. Arsenal. Well, I think Arsenal. The loss to Arsenal was the worst, just above the other two. Yeah.
Here's why I want you to select one, because I want us to look at it.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to pick one. Let's see the one that all the panelists here will pick, and even the people in the chat. Let us know which of the games for you is the worst game of the season. Go ahead, Nick. Go ahead.
Performance-wise, Arsenal, the 4-2 loss to Arsenal was the worst.
Why? Why do you think?
4-1.
Why?
Because we let them outplay us. That was one of the worst performances I ever saw Chelsea play against Arsenal. In all the years I've been watching them, we don't usually play like that against Arsenal. We usually come out and we're firing, we're attacking. And it was a big London derby, and we didn't show up. So that has to be the worst. Yeah.
Which one for you, Max?
Yeah, he stole my one. That's the one. He was going through all the games, and he didn't mention the Arsenal game. Then right at the end, he mentioned the Arsenal game. For me, it has to be the Arsenal game, because as Nick rightly said, it's a London derby. I don't care, what you're going through, what form you're going through. When it's a London derby, you've got to compete. If we lose, fair enough, but if you don't compete in a London derby, our defending that day was shocking, and it was like a bit of a ping pong. It was like a basketball game. They attack, we attack. Because they weren't that great. I don't think they played well in that game either, because we came back twice for 2-2, and then second half we just stopped playing altogether, and it was just no fight, no bite in the team, nothing. And it was comical goals. We gifted them the goals as well. They didn't earn any of the goals. It was just poor defending throughout the game. And
here's a surprising thing. If I can come in quickly, Max, you said something that's very important. Like you said, you don't care. Once it's a London derby, no matter what's going on, you gotta perform. And to Arsenal, it is like that. It's been like that for the past few years. Arsenal in the league will be the worst team in the league. The moment we have a game against them, I always panic, because that's when you see them play like it's a trophy. And for the past 3 years, it's just that game. It's like a final to them, and we haven't shown up in any of them. Go ahead, Max. Sorry to cut you off.
That's it, because they're up for it, and we're not. And what makes it worse is the Arsenal fan base. They're probably them and Liverpool. They've got the worst fan bases, and I've got a few members in my family. My son's all right, but some of the people.
Which is it? Zayn? Who's that sort of supporter?
Elijah.
Okay, Elijah.
I have a nephew. He's unbearable, and I had to block him in the end because he was just sending me messages every 10 seconds, and I said I can't be asked. I just block, and that's the fan base. That's why. If there's one team I don't like losing to, it's Arsenal, and everything about that club I just don't like. So. That's why it annoyed me. I've never, the other games, and I've kind of been frustrated by, but that one annoyed me losing
the Arsenal game. So we have two panelists choosing an Arsenal game. And quickly, let me try and catch up with the chat. Again, True Blue says, I think I'm going to highlight this one when we talk about Thomas Tuchel's performance. I wonder whose fault it was to drop on fire Ziyech. He had worked his backside off to get his defensive side up. We blame our players all the time. Again, I'll come to that. I DM you on Instagram, bro. Okay, I will check it to see if I'd be able to send it to you via Instagram. Again, if we keep Mason, Tuchel wants him to stay. Again, nobody. If you've spoken to Tuchel, let me know. Again, I don't think that is true. He never fancied him. Again, except if because Alonso is leaving and he thinks there's not going to be enough money to sign another player in that position, he may ask him to come back. If that's the case, then that may well be the case. Emerson wouldn't be staying, but we'll see what happens. I think Emerson had a better loan at Lyon. I think he will be good backup. Again, that language backup, it bites my ear because that's the reason why you could argue where we had some of the issues we had this past season. I agree with you, True Blue. TT has made mistakes, no doubt, but he is not afraid to, accept it, which I like as a truth. I'm going to come back to the panel. Andrew, your worst game of the season. We will analyze the game in detail.
Everton away, 1-0.
Everton away.
Yeah. I think the performance of the players and the coach on that day was abysmal. We also helped Everton stay up, which is another bad thing. Just the whole performance was insipid. It was. There's been other performances like that, disjointed. I don't know what the play was. I really don't.
Mm-hmm.
I told you this a million times. Havertz's performance was a disgrace in that Chelsea shirt.
I think you've talked about this game on the panel here, but go ahead.
Yeah, his performance was one of the most selfish performances of a Chelsea player in history. He only wanted to get even with Yerry Mina, who had wound him up all game. And then,
sorry, Andrew. You're right. I forgot about the Everton game. God. And then, when we had 100 chances and they kept missing.
That's right. Yeah, we did have chances.
Yeah. Sorry
to that. You're right. Yeah. To be fair though to Havertz, that's when the senior player should have stepped up and got in his head, and they didn't. Or the coach should have substituted him because he was just gone. But yeah, we made Pickford look like flipping Courtois. That's what we made him. He's not a good goalkeeper, in my opinion, Pickford.
He always does that, though, doesn't he, Andrew? Do you notice every time he plays against Chelsea?
Yeah, a rotten record.
He's always brilliant against us. Yeah. He's always brilliant against us.
I just think it's just it was just. I think that just I think it just summed up that entire probably second half of the season. It was just that we were just. I think that game. I don't think I was angry at the game, but it wasn't as angry as previous games. I think that's when I just went. This team does not deserve any of my emotion or anger because they haven't earned it. Do you know what I mean? They do not have the right for us to be angry at them. They don't deserve it. But that for me was I questioned Tuchel's in-game management of like the Havertz situation and other things, and it was just a terrible. And we started Everton's essential fight back in the relegation battle essentially after that game. So
that's a good shout for me. I'm going to ask people in the chat. I'll do a poll so that we have we'll carry them along. And if you haven't, please do like the video. At one time we had 50 people watching. Now we have 45 people watching. If you haven't, please like the video to help us reach more people, because the more people will have, the more the review will be fun. So again, we've gained about 3 subscribers more. Again, we're shooting for 3,000 subscribers as soon as possible. But more importantly, do like the video to help us reach more people. Nick, you wanted to say something? Please say quickly so that I can bring in a DJ to make it
start.
I
was just going to say what Andrew said about that Everton game. If there's a game to forget, it's that one. That was diabolical. But I still choose the Arsenal one because of the big rivalry and the London derby. We never play like that in a London derby against, anyone, Tottenham, West Ham, even Crystal Palace, any London team. We don't usually play like that. We didn't turn up, and that got me. We didn't turn up like we should, like any other Chelsea team in the past would. That was, so we had a few bad games, yeah. But it's still Arsenal number 1. I would say Everton number 2. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And now we have about 56 people watching. Please do like the video and also go check out Max Burton Ballerz YouTube channel. From being a fellow content creators to becoming brothers, and I've learned to trust him as an individual. Please, again, his content is, I call him Chelsea Encyclopedia. He knows the history. He understands the club very well. So I urge you to go check out his content, and believe me, you will not be disappointed. And when you get there, if you do subscribe, tell him I sent you. DJ, coming to you.
Yeah.
What game of the season for you?
Yeah, first of all, echoing everything you just said about Max and his encyclopedia.
Yes, please go ahead. Maybe you will explain Max and his content better than me. Go ahead, go ahead, brother.
No. Yeah, no, he is one of the best YouTubers around. But in terms of the Chelsea thing, yeah, again, we've already alluded to the games. Arsenal for me, because it's a London derby. You can't be up for a London derby, then I don't know what you can be up for. It's after the worst thing about that, I think, was Arsenal were in such a bad run of games, and Charity FC struck again, with Chelsea. We just gave it to them for them to get a little bit of a run. We did that, I do believe, last season as well, when Everton, I think Arsenal done us again last season. Similar circumstances, they were going for a bad run. They played us, and they ended up winning that game. It was under Lampard. I can't remember who it was under. But yeah, that was probably my worst game, because as I said, I was at that match at Stanford Bridge, which was the thing of all as well about that game, and seeing the way the team just capitulated. I mean, letting Arsenal turn up to your backyard and literally almost playing us off the pitch and getting the goals, and how it was the way they scored against us as well, which got me even more annoyed. Because those kind of things is not usually associated with Chelsea, though we conceded our goals. So for me, Arsenal was 100% the one that I'm obviously not. And Brentford is the other one, because Brentford, it's the way they bullied us, Coachila, in that game at Stanford. They completely
bully is the correct word. I was ashamed.
They really outmuscled us, outbullied us, and the way the goals, and where they were having shots and goal for fun. That's what the worst thing of all was about. You're sitting there watching and thinking they're having shots and goal for fun, and you're thinking, what the hell are we doing? This is not the Chelsea way of playing. But 100%, those two, the worst games, and the Everton one as well. All three games, I think, what everyone just said here, I agree with 100% all three games, because they were going to be the 2 or 3 I was going to actually say as well.
Yeah, I think maybe we should also look at the Brentford game after we again. But in the chat, they seem to differ a bit. 44% says home loss to Arsenal, 60% say home loss to Brentford. But I'd side with the home loss to Arsenal because it was a London derby, and we didn't see the spirit that we see the Chelsea under Jose Mourinho or even Antonio Conte. When you play a London derby, you see that spirit. You see the game will be feisty, but that wasn't. It just looked like as if our players were disinterested. Anybody want to add anything to it before we analyze the game? Okay,
I just think it shows the lack of leadership really in the squad we've had previously, where I sound like in the story now, but even whatever manager we had, he had Cech, Terry, Cole, Lampard, Ballack, Essien, Mikel, Drogba, to steer the guys through on the pitch, the generals on the pitch. And that's what we're lacking. We're lacking generals on the pitch. That no matter what, like season past at Everton, 2-2, and then Drogba pops up a volley from near the halfway line, and scores like that just to get through the Champions League running 12, to battle us through. That's what we're missing in this current set. And that's unfair on the young players, because they need those players to help them get to those levels to take over. And that's what we're missing. We're missing it all. We need, I think someone said it on your shows previously, we do not have a spine at the moment.
That was me, Andrew. We don't have a spine like we always had in the past.
Yeah.
We always had a spine from the 70s to the 90s. We had a spine, even when we didn't have great players. We had a spine. Yep. We had, Max will know, in the Ray Wilkins days, in the young days, we had a spine. We had, at the back, we had, what's his name? Pates, if you remember.
Joe McLaughlin.
Joe McLaughlin. Then in the Dixon days, Speedy Dixon.
Speedy, Bumstead.
Mickey Droy. What an animal we had. We don't have that. For the last few years.
Here's the thing, Nick. You don't even have to go that far.
No.
When we had the Drogba, we had a spine. When it's a London derby,
Costa Fabregas.
Yeah, that's the last
even Fabregas.
Yeah.
Exactly. When we had those guys, whenever it's a London derby, it's all out war. It's no time.
He always used to be. But this lot now, what we have, I don't know what to say about them. I don't know, because they are great players. We do have great players. Havertz, he's not any. You can't say he's rubbish, but they don't have the fight in them. Even Mason Mount, he didn't. He would. You would have thought he would fight against Arsenal, big rival, but no one did. No player.
Rudiger.
But I want to say
Rudiger, he fights, all the time.
But again, it's just only one.
And that brings to mind. Yeah, Nick, that brings to mind the saying that a tree can never make a forest. And here's where that's a big problem.
Yeah.
During those eras you talked about, even under Jose Mourinho, under Antonio Conte, when we played teams in the mid-table.
Even under Ranieri, we had great.
Yeah, exactly. Under Ranieri, when we play mid-table teams or bottom-table teams, you can be rest assured we win in those games. But these days, and kudos to the person that formed the two-word sentence, Charity FC. When we play lesser teams, that's when you're concerned. When we play big teams, you're not worried that much. I think that Charity FC, I think it's something we need to find time to talk about someday. Let's look at this. Go ahead, Andrew. You were saying something.
But even leaders, even like a talisman. The last one was Hazard, because the talisman was there. I think when you have Hazard in the team, it brings your confidence of the other players up, knowing they have someone who can get a goal, an equaliser or a winner, which he did that last season. And now that's gone. No one has, and it's pretty unfair really, because the first season we couldn't transfer anyone in, but no one yet has seemed to take that role fully. And that's the problem that's the problem with the squad. They're not, no one has that built in them to do it. Yeah,
that's why.
That's the main reason.
Yeah,
that's the main reason.
Why I know it's unpopular on here. I know Nick Blue doesn't like him, but that's why somebody like a Declan Rice. I know a lot of people say, "Oh, I don't want Declan," but Declan Rice, that's what he's got. That's what he'll give you. He'll give you that sort of leadership quality.
Let
him finish. Let him finish, Nick. Go ahead, Max.
Let me tell you, because he mentioned my name. Max, he's not. I don't like Declan Rice. I know he's a good player. I always thought Shambolic be the ideal player. That's why I always wanted Shambolic. I still want Shambolic if possible. But Declan Rice is not John Terry. That's why fans think. A lot of fans think he's going to be the new John Terry, which I don't think so. That's why.
But I think because he's captain at West Ham at the minute, I think they want to give it to him permanently. So, but if he's not in that side, West Ham are finished in mid-table. I think. Don't underestimate how he galvanises that team at the moment. And I'm looking at. I know a lot of people are always looking at the silky players for Chelsea and everything else. Obviously, we all want to see good football and people with skills and stuff. But for me, I want to see characters come in. David Luiz was a character. Okay, he made the odd mistake, but David Luiz was a character.
But he had the fight in him. The fight we're talking about, he had it in him.
But remember the Kepa situation in the League Cup. Aspilicueta was meant to be doing that job. It was David Luiz was the only one who went over to him to tell him to get off. But even then he didn't, because if it was John Terry, that guy would have been dragging him and throwing him off the pitch. Drogba or any of those, they'll be throwing him off the pitch. But that disappointed me that day because none of the players, apart from Luiz, went over there.
I can't see Declan Rice. He's too young, and grab.
No, it's just
Kepa.
Max's
Kepa
argument is that he has it in him, and that I cannot deny. My only argument has always been I don't think Chelsea is the best place for him, and that's maybe the reason why he might choose to go to Manchester United, where there's space for him to occupy. At Chelsea, you cannot categorically say there's space for Declan Rice right now. But Max, go ahead, finish your point. Let's analyze the game.
No, that's all I can make. I know someone in the chat just put 120 million, but I reckon if we were to get him, it's going to be 80. We're not going to pay over 100 million for him. Guarantee you that. If he was to come this season, he's not going to. We're not going to pay over 100 million.
I think he stays there this summer. Next summer, there's only 2 years left. That's when the real negotiation begins. If he's not left West Ham, because it's 3 years. Essentially, it's 2 years plus 1.
So there's a chance he won't even come this year.
Because this year, only because it's 2 years left on his contract, plus West Ham could put another one in. Next year, there's only 1 year left, and they could put another one in. There's more of a negotiation space for him to even go, I stayed here 1 more year when I could have gone. So I did this for you to see what we were going to do. You didn't do this. Now I want you to do that. He might try and do something like that, a 1 more year job, and then come the next. Because I don't think anyone's. No, I think if you rationalise the rational Chelsea fans do not have a problem with Declan Rice the player. It's always the price. It's never the player.
Yeah, most people are concerned about the price.
That was the same with Chilwell last season when we were after Chilwell. I said, "There's no way 80 million for Chilwell, no way." And then when we got him for 40, I said, "You know what? Okay, that's fit." I still thought it was a bit high, but I thought, okay, for 40 mil, I will be prepared to have him in the team.
Yeah. Let me quickly catch up with the chat. Again, we have 56 people watching at the time. We had 60, 70 people. If you haven't, please be sure to like the video to help us reach more people. We have just 28 likes. I know we can do better than that. And also subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And please go and check out Max. You want to check out Burton Ballerz YouTube channel. You will not regret it. Believe me, you will thank me later. And here, Emeka Dimpa says, I agree. We need leaders, stronger leaders. Real Madrid has great leadership, great mix of the old and new. And you could say that's one of the main reasons why on 3 occasions we thought they were out of the Champions League. But because they have that endurance, they have that experience, they didn't panic, and they came back. It is indeed a mix of experience, a mix of, strong mentality is the reason why they endured to the final and they've emerged as the winners. And believe me, I'd argue they deserve to win it, even though Liverpool had most of the ball in the final, but they deserve to win it. And here, the beautiful game said Rudiger was the spine. He was really, because he always gives you 150% no matter the situation, even when he is not fully fit. Those are some of the games that pushed up us to position 3. Everton had a lot of injuries, and they played on the 19 players, as you said. Okay, I think Ramsey can agree with you, Andrew, on the 19 players, as you said, but we ended up. Yeah,
that was a 1-1. That was a 1-1 game, wasn't it? That one.
The away game. He's talking about
and the game ended in a draw.
Both
and that brings to mind,
that
brings to mind what we had already talked about, the charity FC factor, which I think it needs, so we can come to a conclusion. This is what it is, but I think overall it is a mentality issue. The beautiful games are 120 too much. That's the truth. But like Max says, I don't think we'll pay that much money for him. After all, at this point, we have 200 million, which we've been told, which has been rumored that has to come after the sale of players. So it's not like we have 200 million, and when we sell players, we have more. So again, I don't think we'll pay for that with that price for him. Again, they're having a conversation here. I think we should go, okay, people don't see the intangible when it comes to Declan Rice. There's a reason why Tuchel wants him. We have a team. We need people with authority and command. I don't know where you got that Tuchel wants him. Again, he's a good player. If he wants him, let's get it for him. But let me know how maybe you spoke with Thomas Tuchel. You got to let us know.
According to some journalists, because I think it was Dean Jones I think it was the Terrorist or one of them channels where he says Tuchel really, really wants him. So make of that what you want. I don't know.
Okay, yeah. Everton, Manchester United, Arsenal, and Burnley were the worst of form, but our team failed to beat them. We were having 20 plus shots and 12 to 13 on target, but failed to convert. Phew, I really don't want to talk about that right now. And here, 150 million for Rice is another waste of money, but I don't think we'll pay that much. Yeah. That's, by the way. Let's look at the game in question here, the game that we've talked about here. And this is the game I think I'm better going side by side here so we can see everything very well. Now, look at this game. Look at the lineup and look at the shape here. It is, you could say, 3-4-1-2. I think that's correct. Where's the formation here? 3-4-1-2, and we have the 2 6s included Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Now, I'm not going to say why I pointed that out, but I'm going to start with you, Max. What's wrong for you looking at this lineup? Is there anything wrong for you there?
Basically, Cheek is not a 6, is he? I know that he's been quite
as simple as that.
I don't think he's played bad this season, but he's played better in the wing-back role or when he's been playing a bit further forward. As a 6, he's not. And it's him and Kante, because Kante's not a whole. And I hated that when Sari was here, when they're saying, "Oh, he's playing in his wrong position." He's never been an holding midfielder. Even at Leicester, the holding midfielder was Danny Drinkwater. He's always been a box-to-box. Okay, he likes to be, what Kante does. He sniffs out danger. He's not someone who's going to be playing that lone 6 player or that sitting position. He's not a sitter, yeah. And so we didn't have a sitter in there as a true DM. So that's why they can walk through our midfield. Christensen had a shocker. His head was already in Barcelona. I think he made a mistake, didn't he, for that game? You could see his score 5.1. He had a shot.
When you say the issue with the defense that day was that they weren't properly protected.
But we had Madan Sarr, whose positions he's awful. I think. Sorry, his positional sense is poor. And so just, if you look at the 3 at the back and you can see straight away, it's not about protection because even when we haven't been protected, that back 3 isn't. Reece James can play in that position as a right centre back, but the other 2 were makeshift. Were there injuries at the time? I think Rudiger was out injured. Silva might have been injured.
Yeah, Rudiger was injured. Yeah. Silva, I think, was rested. I think. But
my only concern was
injured.
What Tuchel did. I'm not sure why, but because obviously, I think I'm not sure whether this was the same time that Chalobah was out injured or not, but. He made a couple of mistakes.
He just returned from injury and hasn't been used for a while.
Yeah. But that whole team, it wasn't great. And who was it? Werner. Okay, yeah. So I think more was just the back line, and the 2 in front weren't protecting the back line. So when you've got two guys who are not holding midfielders there, and then you've got a back line who's not going to bail you out, then you're always going to be. That's a recipe for disaster. You're always going to be conceding because it could have been 5 or 6 basically because Arsenal had so many chances in that game. We had a lot of chances first half, but second half, we didn't have a look in, and every time Arsenal attacked, it was like they were going to score. Yeah.
Go ahead, Max.
No, I just think it was the 5. Those 5 who I've mentioned. Reece James a bit unfair, but the other 4, yeah. I don't think Reece James what did he get? 7 for that game?
He's rated 7.0.
I don't think he had that great a game either that day.
You could call that a makeshift back line, but then again, But then again, to me, the problem starts from the midfield because the truth about playing Ruben Loftus-Cheek in the midfield area, most people only pay attention to how beautifully he glides with the ball. How beautiful, his passes look in the eye. How beautiful he can, muscle himself through his. He's that kind of a player. But the truth is, he cannot read the game. He cannot read the game. So the pairing that day left our defense vulnerable. And I wouldn't. Again, I don't know why Thomas Tuchel took the risk because given the way the back line is, that is where we have Reece James, which traditionally doesn't start there for us. Andres Christensen, whom, as you argued, already his mind is already at Barcelona. And Malang Sarr, who hasn't started that much, he did quite okay. But the truth is, we were exposed. Again, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, you could say, on multiple occasions was the reason why that is our defense was exposed, because he couldn't read the game. At least Jorginho reads the game. In most cases, he will be at the right place at the right time, but maybe he's not the best in terms of running and catching up with the man and winning the ball back. But again, that's me. Andrew, your thoughts on what happened in this game?
Well, like you say, the midfield, it's probably the worst midfield pairing this season. That regularly, that the players regularly feature throughout the season. With this lineup, Ruben's probably better placed where Mount is, in my opinion, in that position for his power. That he doesn't have to worry about behind him. I do remember Saka destroyed Alonso on this game on quite a few occasions. On that right-hand side, he absolutely obliterated it. But I always tell people, if you expect more of Alonso, that's on you, isn't it, really? But yeah, it wasn't... I mean, it's so depressing looking at this team, really is. Because Werner and Lukaku, I mean, I know everyone's going to say for the price, Lukaku is probably going to work out as our worst signing in history, but I'll tell you what, Werner's up there as well for one of the worst signings we've ever done. And there's no... Do you know what? When I see this team, what word it lacks? Creativity. When I look at that team, it lacks anything creative. And I've seen the most defensive lineups under Jose Mourinho you can think of, and they had more creativity than that team I looked at down there. That was a shambolic performance. One of many, may I add, the second half of the season. But that was... I mean, we didn't defend. We just didn't defend at all. It was ridiculous. Malang Sarr, I don't know why people even bother rating him, because I don't know why. Can someone tell me why we... Not anyone here, I know, but I want to know why we bought Malang Sarr.
I'll tell you why.
He was a free, wasn't he? He was a free, wasn't he?
No. I'll tell you what happened. He had the same agent as Lukaku. And
there we go.
That's why. And because I was like a sweetener, because he's on 100 million. Can you believe it? He's on 100,000 a week. Yeah. This guy, I don't know.
100,000.
He's stealing a living. 100,000 a week. So it was a sweetener. Like we did similar with Patu when we wanted to get in the good books with Kia Jehovic, whatever his name is. Yeah. That's what we did. That's what we did with this guy. So that we can push through the deal for Lukaku.
I think everyone forgets that Malang Sarr was supposed to go on loan in the summer to a German second division team, and that deal fell through. He wasn't actually supposed to be here this season.
Yeah, Frankfurt. He was supposed to go to Frankfurt, wasn't he?
Yeah, and then there was another one right at the end, right last day of the transfer window. They were trying to put him on loan, but that just shows that if you look at that, I mean, we shouldn't have to. Just look at that. Look at that team. That is disgusting. And when I look at that team as a whole, as a collective, some of the players are not, obviously, but when I look at them as collective, it doesn't. Like I said, no creativity whatsoever in that team. And somehow we scored 2 goals, even though Werner's one took about 85 deflections before it went in. But Thomas Tuchel, I praise him for what he's had to work with this season. After some of these teams are just trash.
Yes, yeah. Nick, would you mind me quickly catching up with the chat and coming back to you before I go to?
Yeah.
Okay with that? Okay, thank you very much. Coachila, it's an open secret like him. I am not saying Declan Rice for 120 mil. I'm saying max payment 80 mil. Remember, he won't need any time to adjust to the league, just like Ben Chilwell. Here's the thing, there's no guarantee he fits in seamlessly. There's a chance he comes in and struggle with the way Thomas Tuchel wants to execute that role. Again, it's not that simple. That's why buying a player in the Premier League is no guarantee that player, comes in and just hits the ground running in your team. That's no guarantee. But I get your point. But usually you have more chance of getting a player. Again, the only thing you can say that he's already used to is the physicality of the Premier League and the pace. But system is a different, a whole other thing altogether that he may well need time to adjust to. Again, we have 60 plus people watching and just 36 likes. Please beef up the likes. Take a second to show that you're happy that we're into a new era. Again, it is bittersweet because we're losing one of the best owners in the world, but at the same time, we didn't go down as many people thought that it happened to us. So just show you're happy by liking the video and also subscribing to the channel if you haven't. And thank you again for 2,000 subscribers. And already we're 192. Again, we're into 2,192. So we're all again pushing for 3,000 subscribers. And I know we'll get that there in a few days. Rodrigo Rogers says, plus Kante is very quiet. So he doesn't communicate with his partners. So playing him with RC, it's a disaster. But again, I wanted to argue, but Kante leads by the way he plays. Again, like for instance, Thiago Silva doesn't speak English, but he leads by the way he plays. But in Kante's case, I think you made a good point. It's important that he communicates with RC, but more importantly, it's simple. RC is not a number 6, and he cannot read the game. So it's wrong. Always wrong to play him in that position. RC doesn't have discipline. Again, that's another thing, to stay in position and need his partner in midfield to shout at him, but Kante is very quiet. Again, I agree with that. TT couldn't account for the Christensen doggy back pass. Would you? How do you explain that? I don't know. I see us making 4-5 assignments this summer. Preferably, I would take a Kunde, Koulibaly, Dembele, Bissouma or Rice and Sterling and Kunku. I can see us getting these players for 200 million. So can you break it down? Just don't write it. If you have time, just break it down and put it in the chat. It'd be interesting to see how you do it, given the transfer value of all these players. Either Tuchel underestimated Arsenal that day, or he misjudged thinking RSA could play at 6. Again, that wasn't the first time. And you could argue that every time he played in that position, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we've played badly in all the games, and probably, I think, possibly lost all of them. Again, I'm not sure, but correct me if I'm wrong. I personally be wanting to pay max 70 million for Rice. Again, that's another argument for another day. And they had an ex-academy product too. Yeah, that's painful. He scored, right? So there's 2 goals. So there's actually lots of reason to be really pissed at the way the game.
His first 2 goals that season as well.
Yeah.
Not just like 2 goals. He had.
Oh my goodness.
Premier League ever. That's what I'm saying. That's what DJ said. Charity FC. He had not scored. It was like that Sheffield United striker McGoldrick. He never scored in the Premier League. They scored us. I think he only scored like 7 goals in total, and 5 of them were against us or something like that.
Yeah,
it was. It's like any striker who's going for a goal drought. The
Play
last
Chelsea.
Couple of years, pick out Chelsea,
and you get goals.
You get the goals.
Yeah.
Nick, I'll come to you in a bit. The Chelsea boy 1234 says Gnabry as a replacement for Ziyech. I don't want us to lose Ziyech. Gnabry is a different caliber of player. Again, I don't want to go into that. Rice plays for West Ham United, whose team attack at Chelsea. He will have the ball at his feet. A lot can he create or unlock. Again, that brings to that point I made. Again, haven't played in the Premier League. It's a different thing altogether, but the system and the way the manager prefers to play is a different thing altogether. We must consider that. Sarr was already at the club and had been on loan in Portugal for a year. Not sure how he was a sweetener for Lukaku when he were looking at Haaland. Again, anyone knows transfer for June window. I'm not sure I understand your question. If you can rephrase that, if I understand it, we'll try to address it. So, Nick, tell us why you think we lost this game, and we're waiting for you.
Yeah, for me, the midfield, starting from the midfield, Ruben didn't do his job. Most of the time he just stood there when he had to come back or go with the man. Who was attacking. He didn't do his job at all. And it doesn't work. Kante and Ruben never works. And it wasn't only the midfield, it was every position. Werner, like Andrew said, we bought him to score goals and it didn't work. I think he'd be the first to go in the summer. It's a lot of things. And the defense, what was Christian thinking of? That's unbelievable. Even if his money is on Barcelona, you don't do that. Yeah, that started it all. That was a great start, by Christensen. And the whole team, their attitude, the way they played, they didn't, for a London derby, they didn't. These players who played that day didn't deserve to play in the under-10 league. They are under 10s would have done better, much better, because they didn't show no spirit, no fight, no nothing. So I think it was every single player who played that day wasn't on it, like we keep saying. Yeah, you can't point out, so many, everything's wrong. Christensen, Ruben, Werner. I mean, who was good? No one. There was not one player who can say he was above average. No one was. Yeah. So I don't want to say too much about that because it was big disaster. One of the biggest disasters against Arsenal I've ever experienced. We had a couple, before losing to Arsenal 2-1, and they were a bit closer, but to let 4 goals in at Stanford Bridge against Arsenal, that used to happen. It didn't even happen when we were in second division, when we had to play them in the FA Cup. We played well. We used to beat the mighty Arsenal in those days. So, unbelievable rubbish performance. Disgraceful.
I think you're right. It's heartbreaking, and we're going to look about. I will come back and I'll start with Max when I catch up with the chat. And Nick, you make a great point. I think the under-23s would have done better. Would have given blood and sweat on that pitch because they understand the magnitude of the game. It wasn't to us. It wasn't like it was a London derby. We'll look at the bench and we'll ask the question of why. What was the game after this one? Why did Thomas Tuchel actually pick the 11 he picked? But that's what, by the way, I want us to look at the stats before I go to DJ. Look, I think it is actually a deserved win for them. Forget possession or anything. They had an XG of 1.82 while we had an XG of 1.05. Total shot 14. I think it was Max that said it could have been worse, actually. And they had 2 big chances. We had 0 big chances. We had accurate passes, probably backwards and sideways. Again, yeah. 4 offsides shows you they wanted to score more. They were on us, and we had 1 offside. And corner kicks, we had 6 corner kicks. But again, what the most important thing here is the XG. If you ask me, I'm not sure. Max, coming back to you, looking at let me get DJ thoughts on what he thinks went wrong in this game.
Everything has been echoed. I mean, you got to look at the midfield first of all. I mean, when you got, again, I think we said about Alonso earlier on being cooked as well. I mean, you see him, and then you got a player like Saka coming at you, mate. You just know there's only going to be one winner, and that's going to be Saka. Alonso nowhere near him. I mean, look. Christensen's pass as well in that game, the back pass again. That's what kind of like started it all off, didn't it? The game in itself, as I said, I was at that game, and it was probably one of the worst performances I've ever seen. And I think to go at the team that Tuchel put out, whether he was thinking about other games, or whether it was other players were not all fully fit. I know obviously Rudiger was out of that game. I think Silva, did he make the bench? I don't know if he had a bit of a slight injury, and he didn't want to risk him. But
he later on he came on in the 46 minutes and got a rating of 7.1. That shows you how poor Christensen was. But go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. So he did come on, but again, had he started with those goals that have gone in, I don't know. I mean, again. It's what that game basically lacked that day was, as we've said it already, leadership all over the pitch that day. I mean, Aspie was there, but what can he say? There's only so much he'll do, but he should act as the leader and captain. But it was just a disaster game all around. I don't know what more else to add to it. Look, Werner was poor. Lukaku was poor. everyone in that game was poor. So even though Werner got a rating of 7.5, I don't know how he got that rating. For me, I don't think the whole team played well at all in that game.
Quick question, DJ.
Yeah.
Obviously, that was about the second or third game. Second game, I think it was, since when our ban. We have a great atmosphere, don't we, when we play a game? Do you think the atmosphere played on the players as well? Because it didn't seem like the typical London derby, did it?
No, because it was on I think it was a Thursday. It was a Thursday game, wasn't it?
Yes.
And what it wasn't what you'll call your normal Saturday crowd day. People all up for a game, or Sunday game. The crowd were not. Again, you can't blame the crowd. I mean, you can't say the crowd didn't play their part. Obviously, every time you go to a Chelsea match, you always try to win your team. But the minute Arsenal started to get on top of us, as it always is, as you know, Max, when you go to Stanford Bridge, the crowd and probably Andrew knows this as well, and Nick, the crowd just go quiet. And once the crowd goes quiet, where that's it. We just let Arsenal just come on top of us, and that's exactly what they did in that game. And then obviously the crowd found their voices again, but it just didn't help in that game. It just didn't. The performance in itself just was not great. It wasn't great at all. So even if the crowd were up for that game, as they usually would be for every game, I don't know whether that made a difference anyway, because the players just did not play for that game. They were just not that great in that game at all.
Yeah, again, it's just it was embarrassing. Collectively, they were poor. Even those that got high ratings, I wouldn't give them that much. So, Max, let's look at what we had on the bench that day. Again, we started Ruben Loftus-Cheek as one of the 2 6s. Thiago Silva didn't start. We had Kai Havertz. You could argue before that game, I think he was doing well. Hakim Ziyech was on the bench. Christian Pulisic was on the bench. Jorginho was on the bench. Even Ross Barkley could have played better than some. Saul Niguez was on the bench, and we had Trevor Chalobah. Your thoughts on the selection in the first place?
Yeah, I think you said I'm trying to wrap my brain and see. I think you did say that Chalobah was just coming back from an injury or something. I remember there was a time when he just stopped playing him because of, as I said, he made a couple of mistakes. So when I think there were games that he could have played and probably would perform better than some of the personnel were out there. Jorginho was out for a bit, and I think that was because they said he played an awful lot of games. And was that before he missed a penalty in the World Cup for Italy, that game, or after?
Oh, it sounds like that was during that period.
Because that was playing on his mind, wasn't it? He was a bit depressed after that game. Probably, because I'm not the manager. So Tuchel must have seen something in him mentally that he wasn't really ready to play those games. Kovacic, I think, was out injured, so he wasn't on the bench. Silva, I don't know why he didn't play. Looking at, because that back line looked a bit inexperienced with Sarr in there. I wouldn't play Sarr and Christensen.
I'm going to head off now, fellas.
Okay.
I'll speak to you multiple times over the summer. So.
Yeah, take care, Andrew. Peace up to you, bro.
Okay,
all right, brother.
Yeah. Yes, I'm looking at that and for, because those two, Sarr and Christensen together, is a recipe for disaster. So I'd have liked to have had the experience of Silva in there, and Werner and Lukaku, just don't know. I think if you're playing with Lukaku, if you play Werner and maybe another, because Mason Mount was dropping deep, and they played as a 2, didn't they, up front? I don't think it works when they play as a 2. If Lukaku's in the middle and he's got 2 runners either side, I think that's better for him rather than Werner and him playing together. I don't think they've clicked together, have they, quite as such? But they're the bench. As I said, all I'd have done is I'd have put Silva in place of one of those defenders, and perhaps Jorginho, because with Jorginho, I'd have had him in there, because we've all said that the Kante combination with Loftus-Cheek doesn't work. So at least Jorginho would be there to sit in that midfield and sort of to control it a bit better than those two did in that time.
Yeah, I think we're probably going to round off without rating the players, but that's by the way. Let me ask you this, Are you there, Nick? Because in Life No Limit says also the atmosphere at the bridge has to improve. Most times you
Yes.
hear the away fans more than our home fans, and that has to stop.
Yeah.
Yes, our players need to lift the fans, but the fans could play a role too.
Yeah,
Quick question though.
Yeah.
Before you can answer this, but it's related to this. For DJ, you know that standing area, that standing zone, it was an experiment. Did they not continue with it after the sanctions? Or are they going to continue with that next season?
No, I think it's still continued on from what I know.
It was
still
He
ongoing.
was there when DJ. He was there.
It was still
the
there.
last 3 games I went through. I was in
there.
there.
There was talk. There was
There was
talk.
Hopefully that should
improve. Still there.
That should improve the atmosphere if you can get people. Because that's what's if you look at Crystal Palace. What they do, they had all the ultras, they were all together, and what it does, it's a ripple effect. They start the singing off and it goes round the ground as well. So that's what we need as a Chelsea, to get all our singers, all the noisy ones together, and then to get them to galvanise the rest of the stadium.
Yeah. That's what I suggested to the football Chelsea Trust, Max, because we only do that, or the DJ knows, away games. Yeah. When we go 3,000 all together, we make a lot of noise. But the problem at Stanford Bridge, the problem at Stanford Bridge is not. It's been going on too long now. The atmosphere has been really bad from the Chelsea crowd, and I witnessed it a few games. Especially the Brentford one. That's why we lost that game, not just because we played bad, but the crowd didn't help at all. Was you there, DJ? I think you was.
Yeah, it was. Wasn't that the day everyone did the protest? Wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
Before the game. And
I managed to get a ticket. It was a full capacity, but the atmosphere was dead. It was dead. Even I was in the shed and standing area, and it was dead. And Matthew Harding the same. So you can't just say because it's the West End and the East End. No, it was the major sides not making enough noise.
Do you think it was? Do you think though, Nick, it was because of the numbness of what's happened?
Yes,
because that was just before.
That was the main. That's why I didn't blame the players, mate.
Yeah.
I didn't blame the team. I blamed the crowd. Because they were numb.
No, but even the crowd, I think, were a bit, because obviously it would affect us as supporters as well. Because that was the last game before we could, because we could buy tickets for that Brentford game, couldn't we? Then after the Brentford game,
the ones who had
selling tickets.
It was the ones.
Brentford game.
Yeah, that was the last game we had a capacity since the sanctions, and the crowd, they could have been better, I must say. But it was one of those games. It affected the players. The protests affected everyone, even the board, it affected every single Chelsea player, fan, the board, everyone. It affected everyone, and that's why Brentford took over. All you could hear was Brentford fans, and go after goal for Brentford. That was so I couldn't really blame the players that much on that day. But Real Madrid, after that we had Real Madrid at home, and we were stages we were electric. Madrid all very loud, but we were up for it. We were up from the beginning. DJ, if you remember, we were going crazy.
Yeah.
We made the noise like we should every single game. That was the atmosphere was there, but Mendy let us down, because if we lost 2-1, we would have gone through to the final. Because that late goal killed us. 3-1 killed us for the second leg. Yeah, but the crowd has to improve though. I think it will slowly improve, because we have so many things going on this year. With who's our owner. Roman's gone. Roman, the the effect Roman had on us fans is unbelievable. You know, and a lot of them couldn't even sing because of it. And I was trying to, I was singing his song all the time. Every game I went to, I was trying to get them to sing Roman Abramovich. In the beginning, they wasn't, especially at Chelsea, because they felt, people were in two minds. You know, did he do anything to cause that? Was he Putin's best friend? People were in doubt, even Chelsea fans. But, not me. And that was a bit, that was the cause of it as well for the fans. And, he affects, even now, Roman Abramovich has an effect on us all. So even when we switched owners, everything's back to normal way in business. But it's hard for someone who's been our owner for 20 years just to, you can't forget, what you've done. And it's hard to, I don't know, it's very hard to explain the words I want to say. It's very hard to acknowledge that he's gone. But I'm glad he's taking the European Union to court now. He can start with them.
We'll see how that goes. Let's just concentrate on on what we're doing.
Yeah.
Because politics it's a very strong thing again. Nick, thank you very much for explaining that. I hope what you said, I hope it happens the way you said, like it will slowly improve. But we'll see. And in Life No Limit says we need to make Stanford Bridge a fortress again, like it was under Mourinho for 4 years without losing a game at home. Am I right? I think something like that. Teams should feel like they have lost even before they step on the pitch. Yeah, that's the way it should be. But unfortunately, a lot of bad stuff happened this season. We broke the record for home losses that we have never done before. But that's by the way. And Rodrigo Rogers says that we went 86 games unbeaten at home, but towards the end of this record, we started drawing too many games at home. On the Scolari messed up. I think that shows you understand the club very well. And it says, Lee Bell, nice to see you again. I hope you're doing well, brother. Big up to the panel, big up to the chat. On my lunch right now, but big up, Chelsea. Again, always good to see you around, brother. And wherever you're watching, and you too, Lee Bell, I urge you to go check out Burton Ballerz YouTube channel. I think you will like it. And again, he will appreciate your input too, because you understand, the club very well. Wherever you're watching, we have just 41 people right now. And please do like the video also and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. But please go check out Burton Ballerz YouTube channel and also follow Nick Blue. And we'll be rounding up in a few minutes, but there are questions I hope you would be able to address before we round off. And where did I stop again? Quite a lot of comments also to catch up. I said, Lee Bell with this one here, and says, Rodrigo says, I started to sing and the fans around me just give me the dirty look. That's funny. Tuchel has hinted at these a few times, asking for the fans to do better. I hate to say it, but Anfield can be intimidating when the fans are get going. That's the truth. I think it's one of the most difficult place to win games. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, but at least it is difficult. At least a big up, Leo Bell. How are you? Just saying hi to him. I totally agree with you. We're a big team in EPL. We cannot lose home games the way we did last season. We have to make Stamford Bridge a slaughterhouse, if you want to phrase it like that, where opponents will not come and not be afraid to visit, if you want to phrase it like that. Nick, while I'm with you, let me start with you. Who's your worst player of the season?
The worst player. The worst player. God, there's a 2 or 3, I think. But
just one. Just pick one.
The worst player, I think it has to be Saul for me. Saul
Niguez for you. Why did you say Saul?
Because he hardly had any good games. Alonso's close. Alonso, for me, didn't do that bad. When Chua went out, he did score goals for us. I think so. It wasn't the right move for him. He never got used to the pace of the Premiership. and he couldn't. Tuchel tried and tried, it didn't work. So I think it's close with Sarr, Merlin, Sarr, and Saul for me. So it's very close with them too. But because Sarr is younger, I'll give it to Saul. Give him the wooden spoon. Yeah.
Yeah, you give it to Saul like it's a gift.
Yes.
How about you, DJ?
Yeah.
DJ, who's your worst player of the season?
Listen, I know the comments of what Nick said about Saul Niguez, and I hear that been mine as well because he's hardly had any game time. But I'm sorry, Nick, don't dislike me or anything like that. But mine has to be Romelu Lukaku, and that's only. And again, this is no hate at him at all. I've got no hatred towards him.
I know you don't hate. If there's anyone who backs Chelsea players, is you. I know what you're like.
Yeah,
you're like me.
Oh,
yeah, Lukaku was bad.
Yeah.
But
go ahead, DJ.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I was just
I'm going to say
Lukaku
because the interview and all that, he got depressed and he was mentally out of it. That's why.
No, I think for me, when it comes to a few things, Nick, obviously the interview plays a huge part. In fact, three things, in fact. Obviously the interview, and then obviously when we signed him back for the 97 million that we spent on him, I was told by a lot of my friends, I've got a lot of people that a lot of Italian, a lot of people that are supporting Inter Milan. I've got a lot of them on Twitter as well that speak to me, saying you're getting a player that's improved in his game. His hold-up plays better. He can run the channels so well. He'll get you the goals that you need. The reason why it's more for me, he was the missing jigsaw piece that we needed in the puzzle to win the league. And I think that was a
serious mistake.
That's what people were going around saying. And for me, look, I wanted him to do so well when he came back because I thought, being a Chelsea boy as well, he's going to come back and prove a point to everybody. But the man was just a complete disaster. I mean, he did the interview first of all, and then secondly, obviously he got, obviously he didn't perform as he should have, and then last but not least, I call it if you like, the icing on the cake. Even to this day now, the season is over. The man is trying to go with a lawyer to get himself out of Chelsea Football Club. That in itself tells me you don't want to be at the football club. You don't want to wear the shirt. You don't want to wear the badge. Then leave. Go.
Oh yeah, I agree with you there. Go. The same. I agree with you on that point. Yeah, but I just couldn't say Lukaku. I don't know why, because I wanted him to do so well, but
so did I.
He let us down. He let us all down. Yeah, you're right. I think you're right. We have to give him the trophy. Give him the wooden spoon. I changed my mind. Give it to him. He deserves it.
You're gonna give it to him yourself, not me. Max, coming to you. Which of the players is your worst player of the season and why?
I'll go for Saul. Okay. I hear what you guys are saying about Lukaku. If it's when you're talking about the worst, when you're talking about pound for pound and value for money, then obviously Lukaku, because Saul was on a free, and the worst performance was by Lukaku when he had 7 touches of the football. Never seen that in my life. I don't think you could do that if you stood still and have 7 touches of the football. Just stood in the middle of the park and put it for 90 minutes. But the reason I'm choosing Saul, he came in. I was a bit, when he first came in, I thought he may be able to turn it around at Chelsea. A bit dubious, a bit suspicious why Atletico were giving him to us, But if you look at it, 20 games. He played in total, I think 10 Premier League games. I'm not sure how many of those were starts. 5 in the Champions League, 4 in the EFL, and 1 World Club Cup. And he got more yellow cards than he did goals or assists. Got 2 yellow cards, no goals, no assists, and he's just didn't give us any value in the middle of the park whatsoever. At least Lukaku, strangely enough, as poor as he was, he still finished as our top goal scorer. He's finished with 15 goals this season, more than anyone else. So all our strikers were poor, but he was poor as well. But for me, and what it did with the Saul one as well, it's not only a criticism for him, it was a criticism for the board as well, because they left us weaker than we were the season before. We didn't strengthen, and the sign of Saul cost us getting Tchouaméni, who's doing medicals at Madrid probably today or tomorrow. Because had we got Tchouaméni, Saul wouldn't be here as well. So I wouldn't forgive the board for that as well.
And the thing is, Max, why did Tuchel want him? I don't understand why Tuchel wanted him.
There's no way to tell whether Tuchel wanted him.
Tuchel didn't want him. It was a case
him.
of the board said, okay, you need another body in midfield. Saul's available. We'll give you him. Work with him.
Yeah.
You see, the other thing as well.
I think we have to give it to both of them. Give it a share of the spoon.
They could have
the together.
Share the spoon,
If you're in the chat, please let us know who is your worst player of the season for Chelsea Football Club. And with that, we're going to come to the final question. And I'm going to start with you, Max. Let's look at Thomas Tuchel, the way he approached the game, the way he dealt with. I know maybe you see things differently because the day we had the debate, you came and I remember what you said exactly. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not going to try to go there. The way he handled the selection between Balaga and Mendy, and the way let's changes during games and all that in-game management. I love him. He's a good manager. He's actually a genius of a manager, if you ask me. Do you think he had a perfect season, or do you would,
No.
Do you want to critique him in any form?
No, beyond critique, because a lot of people think that he's a holy grail because he won us the Champions League. People say you can't criticise him, but he's not beyond criticism. He's made a lot of mistakes this season. Okay, I get. Obviously the club put him in an unfair position anyway, because he was not only a manager this year, he was ambassador, he was firefighter, a lot. When people like Bruce Buck, people like him, rather than him answering the questions about the war and the sanctions and everything else, they were cowardly and they made him answer all those questions. So for that, he was very admirable in the way that he dealt with that situation. And for the crisis that we had, I thought he managed it impeccably. He had some off-field problems, with the divorce with the wife and everything else, which kind of affected him as well. But there were quite a few mistakes. In-game management, I think, was poor at times. I know Andrew mentioned the one where he should have seen that Havertz situation, and he should have removed him from the pitch. And so even the likes of the way he handled Tammy Abraham, saying he wasn't good, deemed not good enough for the team this season. So he went. People like Mark Guay were left, and we brought in Sarr. So it was, people are saying at the club why they sell him or whatever. But if Tuchel said no, these guys are in my plans, they wouldn't have been sold. They weren't sold from under. No, it was that they weren't going to be playing for him. And as I said, there were situations where I thought, why is he not making this substitution earlier? There's many times he went 70, 80 minutes and not making substitutions. I thought when Ziyech was informed, he pulled him up. He's changed the formation, and Ziyech was out of the team. Shalabar, when he made a couple of mistakes, he left him out of the team for quite a while. When I thought that he could have contributed to the team, even some of the selections sometimes that we saw were a bit. You looked at the side and you were quite. You don't know the context because there may be some injuries and stuff. As we're the supporters, so we don't know what's going on the training ground or on the pitch. But you look at some of those and find them quite baffling. And there was a couple of occasions as well where we played Ziyech on the left and Pulisic on the right. Again, I don't know, because I always like it the other way around. I think they're more effective on when they swap sides, and he did that quite a bit last season and weren't effective. Another thing. I don't want to sound like a bashing session because I think in the main he's done a lot of good things, but I'm just pointing out some of the things that I saw. Whenever he took Lukaku off, He then moved Reece James into sort of the sort of wing back role, and he was crossing it in to nobody. So when Lukaku was on the pitch, they weren't getting the crosses in. As soon as he came off, they started to get the crosses in, which I found a bit weird. So it's just like little things like that. But I still have sympathy with Tuchel, because these players are not his players. I've always said it. He's had to find a way to work with these particular players, and I don't think he rates a lot of these players anyway. So you're still trying to find solutions within this team, and I think if we can get back, because Ballerz come in and saw that these players are not ready to compete, and he's willing to talk to Tuchel and see who he wants to come in to improve us. So I think if he can get 3 or 4 players in and get rid of some of the players he doesn't want, then hopefully next season we're going to be seeing Tuchel express himself in the way that he wants to express himself, with players who can sort of implement the tactics that he wants to employ.
And that's one of the reasons why I argued with Nick the other day. That I think, not an argument though, we were debating it. I think it's important that Lukaku leaves, because the more Tuchel gets in the players that are able to help him execute the way he likes to play, the less of the chances Lukaku will get. Again, that's me. But I want you, Max, to quickly address this comment on the screen by Declan. If you think, if not, we can move ahead.
I like the system that we chose to play, and I'm very flexible. I can play as a 2 all by myself, and I'm used to the system. It depends what system. Obviously, he's having a look at the way that we've played. I'm not sure what Tuchel has said to him actually about what his role was in the team. Because if you notice, I forgot when you were speaking about the situation with Tuchel, where he was he said that now that Giroud was going, that we need a player of similar profile, which was a mistake, because Lukaku has never been a target man. If you look at throughout his career, he's like, even at Inter, at Manchester United tried to play him as a 9 as well, but he likes to run the channels a lot. Mm-hmm. He's not one of these guys who's going to hold up the play and everything else. He likes to play on the shoulder of the last man, run the channels, get on the end of crosses, etc. For Lukaku to make that comment, what you declared has put on there, has he looked at the way we play? Because he's not a possession-based player. He's never been a possession-based player. He's a counter-attacking player. That's why he plays well under Conte, because Conte plays that the sort of counter-attacking football. He doesn't play possession-based, so he doesn't look comfortable in a possession-based team. I did a video earlier on him actually, where I said that when he's the main man, he could perform. At Everton, they played, he was the main man, so that's why he performed well for them. West Brom as well. Manchester United, he was just one of the cast in the team. He wasn't like the main boy, and so it didn't quite work out for him. And at Chelsea, he wasn't. And it's interesting to say that he wants to have conversations with Tuchel because he wants us to play to his way, his style, rather than him adjusting to the way that the team plays. So, and then they say those are the talks that he wants to have. So for me, he should have seen our way of playing. I don't think it was a match made in heaven. Anyway, at the time, I said I was happy for him to come, but on reflection, I just don't think that the two parties could work out, because it's totally two different styles of football. Tuchel has his style of play. Lukaku is different, but again, it's a difficult one, because last season we did have quite a lot of crosses, didn't we? But we just needed someone to get the end of the crosses, and he was. That's why when he came in, I thought he could get on the end of these crosses. But his problem as well, and he admitted this, is that because he's quite a heavy, he's a heavy boy, isn't he? So he can't press. And he even said it. So he said that when we press, it takes a lot of the energy. It consumes a lot of energy. So he doesn't give him. He's tired by the time he receives the ball on the attack. So that's why, and that's another reason why probably he didn't fit, because you need somebody who's quite, sort of who's used to the pressing game. before my last point, not about Lukaku, but I could see Haaland in his first season. I think he'll struggle in his first season until he gets used to the way that Pep Guardiola likes to press.
Because system is a different thing altogether.
Exactly. So I think he'll struggle in his first season. When I say struggle, he'll probably still score 15, 16 goals maybe, but the season after, I think you're going to see a beast. Next season, I don't think you'll see a beast. People are going to be taking the mickey out of him, saying, "Oh, what a waste of money! It's the Bundesliga tax, etc., etc." But the season after, I can tell you that he'll be scoring lots of goals. Or even half a season. Give him half a season to adjust, and he'll do well. But but for me, because he's young, isn't he? He's young and nimble. But I just don't think Lukaku. He's just too. I said he's too muscular and too heavy to play that sort of high energy game that Tuchel wants to play.
Yeah, and he was honest about it. So, Nico, the final question we have, it's up to you, judge. I want you to judge Thomas Tuchel. Tell us where you think he went wrong. If you think it's perfect, that's your choice. Let us know.
Yeah, well, I can't blame Tuchel too much because what he did with these players, Max said it all. He played with different, not his own players, not one. So even Lukaku, I don't think was his player. So he didn't have anyone. So what he did, he done great really to get 2 trophies, 6 finals, was it? Yeah, I can't blame him too much, but he did make mistakes. I mean, everyone makes mistakes, and the biggest mistake for me was between Mendy and Kepa. When Mendy was passing, dribbling the ball in the penalty area, giving goal. It wasn't just the Real Madrid game. He done it a few games after that as well, and he wouldn't put him on the bench. That was a big mistake. He should have let Kepa have a game and put, like I said before, Coach. You know what I said. You should have bench Mendy for his own sake to get because he's a number one. Drop him with 1 game or 2, and then he will realize he's not undroppable. But no, that was the biggest mistake for me. And plus, the late subs, giving Lukaku 10 minutes to change a game, and then when he came on, he got all the abuse again because he didn't do nothing for 10, 15 minutes. What do you expect from a player coming on, for 10 or 20 minutes? To change your game. That was completely wrong as well. And not just with Lukaku, with quite a few of them. So, he made mistakes, but, overall, he done great. Speaking to the press, what impressed me the most, they put him out there back, was hiding in his office when he was supposed to be the chairman, talking about everything what Tuchel had to answer, which was wrong, like Max said. So overall he done great, but a few mistakes. I hope he realizes, Mendy is not undroppable, even for next season. I hope we get if Kepa does go, I hope we get Nick Pope in, and so Mendy will have some competition, real competition. To make him better even. Yeah. So I can't say much.
I think a great point. And I'm with you on how he handled the selection of Mendy and Eduardo Mendy and Kepa Arrizabalaga. Not necessarily because he didn't drop him and bring in Mendy. I'll use examples. I think Max had the time to join us at one point. I don't know if I'm correct, if my memory serves me right. We argued that since Mendy started, Kepa Arrizabalaga started the Club World Cup, and it was his brilliance that made sure we got to the final. He should have, guarded the sticks for us in the final. But as if that wasn't enough, we came back to England, and Kepa Arrizabalaga, he all the while being the goalkeeper for the cup game, and in the final also he dropped him. And again, the signs are again to me that isn't good enough. That would not help his confidence. And if again he's the goalkeeper that we will call upon if anything happens to Mendy. I didn't think he handled that well. But then again, that's a me. And in some cases they seem to fall, to make changes on time. Or even when teams are going away, you could see clearly. Even the average fan will look at things and say, "What's going on here? This guy shouldn't still be on the pitch." A prime example will be against Real Madrid, where I think it was that one, or I don't remember if it was the home game. There was one that Ruben Loftus-Cheek overstayed, which when Vinicius made the run down the left flank, he should have gone for him. He started, drifting towards the inside and leaving him for the last guy. I think it was Reece James to stop him. But Vinicius, he was smart enough, to utilize the space he had there to still put in the ball for Benzema. So that was why, because Loftus-Cheek probably didn't go after him because he was tired already. Again, that's how I see it, in my opinion. I don't know, Max, you're looking like you had something to say before I go to DJ.
Yeah, just a couple of things. In relationship to the Kepa situation that you're talking about, I think what was playing on him. I remember he was loyal to him in the FA Cup final against Leicester, and through no fault of his own. And I say because his physicality and his height, one can argue that it was a great shot by what's his name, Tillemans, but he just missed it with a fingertip. A taller goalkeeper would have probably got that. So I think that was playing on his mind. And the point that you made in the Champions League, for me, what he got wrong. Once we went 3-0 up in the Champions League, he should have brought on another defender. We had 8 minutes to go or 10 minutes to go. They needed to come at us. And when he took off Werner, that was a mistake for a start, because Werner was having a decent game there, and his pace was bothering the Madrid defense. That's why they didn't commit anything forward. And I think they should have just plugged up the defense a bit and said, you know what, you need a goal, so let's just play a bit deeper. Ancelotti showed what he made some smart substitutes, and his substitutes changed the game, whereas ours, we didn't make a big enough impact in that. And I said we should have just closed shop in that game. So he showed a little bit of naivety, I thought, by still playing the same way when we went 3-0 up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, again, DJ, how about you? Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's interesting. First of all, about the whole Kepa situation. If I go on to that one, I think the only reason why Kepa didn't start that final, and I know everyone's got their thoughts on he should have started. He played that semi-final. I think because you guys think about it, the trophy that we won was the only trophy that we had ever won in our history, and I don't think he thought Kepa would be good enough to for him to actually go and win, for him to actually go and stay, not concede the goal. Because let's be honest, that team did have chances against us, and there were times actually that Mendy did keep us in that game. Whether Kepa would have done the same thing, I don't know. And this is no knocking Kepa, by the way, because I've got no what you got on Kepa. I can see why he didn't start that final, and as Max alluded to in the FA Cup final, that goal the goal that Tillemans scored against us, I think had that been a Mendy, a Cech, even a Courtois, I think that's saved for me. That's easy saved. I think that's pushed around the post. So I can understand why he did what he did with the whole Kepa situation in that final. But in a whole, in general, with him again, the only thing I'll only say about Thomas Tuchel, and I've been praising this guy since he came to us, and the only thing I'll only say about him is some of the his late changes he does in games, especially when we're winning games or for example, like Max said in the Real Madrid game, bring on a defender, and to rather than go out to try and go and win the game. We're already winning that game. Our defense, I'm sure, had he put another defender on, we'd have probably gone on to, who knows, we'd have probably gone on to the semi-final and knows what would have happened. But look, that's the only thing I can really say about Thomas Tuchel. Other than that, I can't think of anything else bad to say about him. I think he's tried to treat every player equally. People are saying he probably didn't give. People say, oh, he didn't give Kepa much of a chance. Saul Niguez much of a. I think the only reason why Saul Niguez didn't get much of a chance, as I said before, I don't think he was his signing. I don't think it was his signing. So for me, that he's made his mistakes, and that the only ones I said are the changes that he's made late in games, and that's all I can really think of.
Yeah, I do. I honestly do agree with you again. But to start in terms of the Kepa Mendy selection, I still have my that is I don't think he handled it well. What if something happened to Mendy?
Sorry, Coach.
Yeah.
Do you have any mods in there? Because I think we need to delete some of these.
I think the only mod there is I think they've deleted it. The only mods there. DJ isn't in the chat. He's on the panel. Declared is a mod. In Life No Limits, I think let me just make him a mod. I talked about the other day. I think Joseph Lupol is also a mod. Probably they weren't available, but I think they've deleted it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, with that, I think we could say it's been a brilliant show. I think the review was good. But again, DJ, I'm gonna have to let you know I have to disagree with you on how he handled the selection of Kepa and Mendy. I would thought when we came back to England,
coach,
at least one of the finals for him. Go ahead.
Yeah, the only thing me and you agree on, the Kepa situation.
Is that the only thing?
I think so.
I'm sure you agree on them and other things.
Maybe not many.
Not many, because Nick wants us to sign 10 Lewandowskis to play in every position. Yeah, Max, I don't know if do you have anything else to say? Oh, you're good.
Yeah, DJ gave Tuchel a great plaudit there. He deserves it. I'm not saying he doesn't, but you have to admit when the mistakes were made, we have to say it.
Oh, agreed. Of course.
With Mendy, it was Kepa was completely wrong, and you can't blame Kepa for that goal from Tielemans. It was one goal. You can't go on one goal. That wasn't the reason.
But I'm saying the taller keeper
would have saved it.
I know it's what keeper saves it. Yes,
that's my point I was making.
Yeah, but I know, but you can't. That's not an excuse. Yeah, but no, it's not. It's not an excuse for Tuchel to do what he did.
No,
that's what I'm
saying. You play a 5'1" defender, and then
but I'm not talking about the guys. That goal, one goal doesn't make Tuchel do what he do. Keep with Mendy when he shouldn't have. That's no excuse for me. That's the only thing I have to say. The bad thing about our great super Thomas Tuchel. Yeah.
Yeah, again, it's been a brilliant conversation or debate, if you prefer. And I want to say thank you to everybody on the panel, from Max and Burton Ballerz. Please, if you're watching, we still have around 37 people watching. Please go check out Burton Ballerz YouTube channel. I think he's approaching the 6,000 now.
Yeah, coming out to 6,000 soon.
Yeah, coming out to 6,000, and we can help him reach there. And I will keep telling my followers to go check it out. We need to support him. He's one of the best channels, and it unfortunately doesn't have as many subscribers as he should have. But so if you're watching now, go check out Burton Ballerz YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe and watch at least a few videos if you want to first before to decide whether to subscribe or not. Follow DJ Sav, follow Nick Blue. Nikki, DJ Sav, you want to say anything further about Max?
Yeah, I was just going to say, obviously when I first started out on stream and started to have the guts to go on streams and stuff, Max was the first one that actually went on. And I've never looked back in terms of his streams. His streams are really, really good. His knowledge of Chelsea Football Club is second to none. I mean, he goes back years. I mean, I can go back years, but I think Max can go further back than me. Anyone that's new on this, anyone that's new in your channel here, or anyone's in there, just subscribe to his channel. You won't get let down. His videos are excellent as well.
I just want to say, Max knows. I knew he had something going on. I didn't know he had a proper YouTube channel, so I looked it up and subscribed. Since I subscribed to him, I watch all his videos because he knows what he's talking about. And I like the way he does it. Very good, Max. Yeah, that's why I subscribe to you. Yeah, you know my comments. You see my comments all the time, and yeah, great channel. You need. I think you could go really big if you wanted to. It's up to you. I think how big you want to go.
Yeah, and we have to help tell more people about it. Again, if you like a good product, you suggest the product to others. Yeah, that's what it is.
For sure.
Again, with that, I want to say, sorry, Max, were you saying something?
No, I say it's up to YouTube algorithms. I'll pick up.
Yep. Again, tagging and also tagging helps. Tagging the YouTube channel makes YouTube understand there's something nice actually about that channel, that this particular channel is tagging. But that's, by the way, I want to say thank you to everybody on the panel and those in the chat from and Life No Limits. By the way, I love that name. Says again, True Blue, Declan, and we had Ramsey here, Lupol, and everyone else that were in the chat. If I miss your name, my apologies. I'm only human. And with that, I say thank you very much. See you guys tomorrow for another the Blue Mountain Show, and I'm planning starting another series which I call Chelsea Transfer Watch. That will be coming on every day towards this time, but I'll pick up the perfect time. So see you guys tomorrow, and God bless us all.
Peace out, everyone. Smash the like and subscribe. Peace. Up the Chelsea.
Thank you, brother.